holy hell, not a slouch. Like, 23 million albums sold, probably more now because this is outdated, all of these companies. Then I see some of your fashion stuff. And I was wondering, like, is there something that you say to yourself before you go out on a stage to like tens of thousands of people to hype yourself up?
Yeah, I'd probably say a few things. I always pray before I go on the stage. That's a must do. Even if I'm like rushing to the stage, before I go, I can be in my little silo on the back, in the backstage on the side, like in the wing, literally. And I'm like, get that prayer in. So I'm really big on that. I normally do it with my team, which is always a beautiful thing. And I'm pretty much on time for the most part with stuff like that. But yeah, I would say before I go on stage, I also have to take a deep breath sometimes. The nerves, depending on the situation, the nerves can be like really high, So I'm like, we got to bring them down. And I'm like, let's go. Like, we got this. Like, you're supposed to be here. Like, God called you here. Let's go get it. Like, I'll hype myself up inside. Like, you got this. That's probably the most consistent sentence. You got this. Like, let's go.
Yeah. So you still get nerves?
Oh, yeah. I do.
That never goes away.
I used to have a rule. I would say we don't say the nervous. We don't say that word.
Ooh.
There was something psychologically for me that I feel like it could trigger more nerves.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get that fresh, nervous feeling all over again. I'm like, why do I feel this way? God, I've been doing this a lot now. And why does it feel new, all over again? And I remember being on Jenna Bush, co-hosting some shows with her. And she said to me, she said, those nerves are like what lets you know, like you're thriving. Like it's like a feeling that you get, like it's, like you're alive, like it's something to those nerves, like something good's going to happen when you have that feeling.
Yep.
So I've really worked, and I continually work at like embracing when I'm having that moment, like, okay, it's a part of it. Like, we got this. And then literally whenever I hit the stage, the first 3 seconds or 3 to 5 seconds, nerves are gone. And now we're in the zone.
I do feel like that. I always think pressure is a privilege.
Yes.
And so like recognizing those little butterflies, like this means this game on.
Yeah.
Like at least we're doing something big now. We're not playing small.
There we go.
Which I think is so cool.
Yeah.
I've never done anything like you have, but I've like given a bad speech before. Like where I just know it's bad, and it hasn't happened that much, which is like so cool, or I'm not aware of it yet. And so, but I'll get off. And it's such a horrifying feeling.
Yeah.
Have you ever like bombed a performance and thought, this was so bad? And then what do you do to snap out of it after you've quote unquote failed?
Performance, I've definitely had some moments where I'm like, man, that could have been better. I wish I had one more take. I think it's like you kind of have to like, I love this word embrace. Like you embrace the moment. You're like, okay, how do I learn from this? And it's like, you got to you kind of got to psych yourself out. Yeah. Like, it's like, okay, that happened, but all right, everyone to the next. Like you literally have to, it's like have amnesia. That's what it is. Like you got to have a little amnesia when you have your blunders in life or you make your big mistakes. It's like, okay, I got to have amnesia so that I don't like hold on to that upset and disappointing feeling for too long. It's like, okay, where did we mess up? Why did we mess up? Okay, now note it. All right, amnesia. Forgot about it. Let's go. Like, because it is a psychological thing. And because I'm a perfectionist, I will let the moments, where I feel like I didn't do my best, or I wish I could have like done something differently. I will let those things like get in my head. And I try to do like good mind control for my mental sake. Because the more you like, you harp on things not being right, there is a negative impact to that. If you hold on to that energy and that weight. So I have to like reset, clear slate. Nothing happened. All right, now what are we doing today? Where are we going next? And then you're like, the next time I get that shot, I am never doing that again, right? And it could be, to your point, whether it's on the stage or it can be a meeting, like you said, it can be a speech, any of those scenarios.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to clean the slate.
Yeah, I think it's all contextual too, right?
Yeah.
When you're at your level, you're like, ooh, I was supposed to be here, and maybe I was right here. But I think we all, wherever you are in life, it can feel like it's it's the end of the world, even though,
Yeah.
later you is not going to think anything about it. We were talking before the podcast about how like young you has to be you used the word delusional.
You got to be delulu.
And I think
You just got to. I mean, when I was younger, well, I don't want to stop you.
I
You want
want
to
to
say
hear
something?
it.
Well, what I realized is that hindsight 2020, when I was a little girl and I walked into rooms, and also being a woman of color, I never walked into the room thinking that I had any issue, like anything against me. I didn't think there were any odds stacked against me because I was so committed to my vision and I believed so much in it. And I think I just saw like the vision happening and coming to life in my mind, that when I walked into rooms, like I was like very like fearless and like, I mean, I probably would have been outspoken to some. Like they're probably like, this girl, she's saying too much, or she needs to shut up, or they probably were saying all these things. But I was like, I was a little delulu. I wasn't like really mindful of like, I didn't think about those things first, right? And I think that you kind of have to have that mentality, especially being a woman. I think there's an automatic perception of us when we walk into rooms, especially back then. I think it's kind of starting to change a little bit by bit for us. But you have to have that that mental approach. Like the moment we start putting all these thoughts in front of in our minds and in our heads, we start to like curtail things or like to change it up versus like, what's your instinct tell you to do? What's your gut tell you? Like, I still have to challenge myself to stop prefacing things like, if this sounds right, or, stuff like that. Like, if that makes sense? Like, I'll say that kind of stuff. It's like, no, it does make sense, right? But when you're young, it's just like a little puppy. Like, you don't know, you just do what you feel. And I'm so glad that I had that. And then I also had to learn along the way, okay, there's ways you have to like, do things. And most importantly, as a woman, emotions left at the door. Emotions have to stay at the door. Like when it comes to business, there's no black and white. There's no gray, it's black and white. Emotions, put them like this, toss them and attack, so it took me some time to learn a lot of things along the way, but I'm so glad that I was a little delulu as a young girl coming up because I went for it, and I'm so glad I did.
No kidding. But it's a great point that you say, which is, I don't think we were told, like I'm Latina, and sometimes people will say, oh, well, it must have been hard as like a Latina in finance or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, bitch, those guys all look the same. It was Chad and Brad and Matt and, whatever. And at least I look different. So like, I don't know. I think you kind of can write your own narrative and say like, maybe it's a win.
Yeah.
So like now you have kids. Like, what do you tell them? Like, are there words in Sierra's house? You're like, no. You don't label yourself this way. Like this is how we talk about ourselves.
I think the greatest thing is like, really catching my kids if they say negative things about themselves. Like, I can't, do this, or I'm not good at math, or I'm not good at this. Like, I'm really big on removing that negative thought, and I'm just consistent. I follow through with like, you can, like, you're so smart, you're so capable, like, always speaking life, like you're so amazing, like, you're so awesome, like you're so fun to be around. Like if there's friendship challenges, like I try to like go opposite of the things that like, I know their little minds start to process, and I'm like, let me speak life into them. So the biggest thing for me that's been a standard internally is like, we don't quit, right? Just because something didn't work out and maybe you didn't ace a scenario doesn't mean you're a failure. To me, failing is when you quit, right? So that's kind of like my mentality, and I'm really big on that, passing that down to my kids, because I think that's really served me well. And yeah.
Well, it's interesting. So you have, this giant career, but from what I can see, like you didn't have a safety net growing up. You were kind of like an army kiddo.
Yeah.
You moved around constantly. You didn't have connections in music. And so how did you learn to take this risk, to go big?
So I always say I'm an only child. Okay. I think that when you're an only child, you have a lot of time on your hands to dream and like, imagine things and like, just do all that kind of stuff. And I've naturally been a very ambitious individual. And I don't know if it's my only child in me. Like, it's kind of like, I'm going to get what I want, I think I am. But most importantly, I was given a lot of love growing up. We didn't have a lot financially, but my love made me feel like I was so rich on the inside, especially. My greatest thing, though, what I did is I'm always big on like, you can't get to where you want to get to in life without a compass. And that was like a natural instinct for me. So the moment I decided I was going to be an entertainer, I literally sat in my room. I was probably 13-ish years old. And I had a goal sheet. And I was like, I'm going to write down my game plan. Because I had decided, I had a conversation with my classmates at lunch. And I was like, we were talking about life after high school, and it's time to start talking about, the colleges you're going to go to and registering and all that stuff. And I'm like, I run track, I'm fast. I am leaving a couple people in the dust, but I ain't breaking records. Okay. I did long jump, triple jump, 4x1, 100. I mean, like I was thriving, but again, I was realistic. I'm not breaking records. That's holding up a gold medal just may not be for me. And I also did cheerleading, which I loved, but I was like, that's not going to be my ultimate job, but I love it and respect the sport. Shout out to the cheerleaders in the world. Okay. It is a sport. All right. But I was like, I know I can sing and dance, and was never trained to do any of it. Like it was me just kind of being within myself again, only child, energy. Like you're like, I think I have some talents here. Like, okay, let me channel these talents. And I knew I wanted to be an entertainer. And the moment I decided that, like, me being a determined little girl and like ambitious, I said, let me write down my game plan to get there. And literally 2 weeks after I wrote down my game plan, which was, and it was a yellow blue line paper. I've got to go to my mom's house to find this, or my mom and dad's house. But basically I had 3 goals. My first goal was to get discovered. And then I wrote down how I was going to do it. So I was going to put myself in talent shows and, find ways to be exposed so someone could discover me. And I remember signing up for the national anthem at my high school. It was the first thing I ever did publicly, right? Now, mind you, I'm coming raw. I ain't had no training. Nobody's told me, how to do this. I'm just doing what I thought I saw on TV, or like, what I was studying. So I'm singing the national anthem, and then on and the rock is red glare, I crack. And then I'm like, sorry, the phone's bursting. But I mean, I was really so nervous. Okay, but that was the beginning, right? I said, put myself in talent shows, go do the national anthem, just do anything to be exposed. That was the first goal, get discovered and how to do it. So the second goal was, once I got discovered, to sell 3 to 4 million albums. And then the third goal was to have longevity. Okay, so this was like my little short list, my short goal list.
At 13.
Yeah. So I did the national anthem, talked to my friends at school about, this is what I'm going to do, at that same table we were talking about our goals post high school. And one of my friends remembered that I said I wanted to be an entertainer. And he comes up to me like 2 weeks later and he's like, hey, see, there's this group. They're looking for a third member. Would you want to audition? And I'm like, yeah. So I get on the phone, I start singing, and I sound a hot mess. I don't know why they wanted to see me, to be honest with you, but they still wanted to see me. Maybe my friend like pumped me up and was like, I'm telling you, she's so talented or something. I don't know. But they still wanted to see me. I went to the group's house, and this third member they were looking for, I was probably like the 5th person to audition for this. Like they had already had 4 girls before me, kind of thing, right? So, and the third member just was not working out for this group. But I made the group, made the group, and then clearly that didn't work out. But I still had my eyes set on the prize. And I ended up pursuing my solo career with the same person that discovered the group or was working the group. Signed my first admin deal when I was 15. And then I signed my first recording contract with a major label at 16.
That is wild.
Okay, so now goal 1, check. Get discovered. Thank God it happens, right? Then I put out my first album, Goodies, when I turned 18. Well, the song Goodies came out when I was 18, album 19, all in the same year.
That was 18.
And I put that out, and then thank God, we not only did 3 to 4 million albums, we did 5. And it's still rolling, right? And then the third goal was to have longevity. And so now I sit here talking to you, 21 years later since I put out the album, but I just always been a big believer that you can't get to where you want to get to without a compass. And I think the most important thing is just reminding myself the power of speaking life and manifestation, because it is real. Like a lot of things that have happened in my life it's happened, of course, by working hard for it, but also by speaking life into it and like manifesting it. Like, and I'm really big on like when I say I want to make something happen, like once I believe it and then I start saying it, there's something that just happens psychologically for me. And I just start to will myself in that direction, right?
Yeah. So if somebody wants to manifest like you, what is the process? Do you write it down, then you say it out loud,
Yeah.
then you start taking action to it? Like, how do we copy Sierra?
For me, I would say you got to have a vision first, right? And we got to be realistic with our vision. I knew I could sing and dance. You know, I knew I was raw at it. Like a lot of my training happened in front of the world in real time, right? I didn't have a lot of show experience or any of that stuff, but you know, I had a vision. It was very clear. And I think that vision that you have is got to give you goosebumps.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's got to give you an exciting feeling, right? Because you're going to need that exciting and passion feeling more times than you can imagine, right? Because it's a passion. They say when you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. So it's my passion that like gives me the will and like sustains me through it all because I love what I do because it's hard sometimes, you know? So I think it has to give you that excitement. Like, are you going to be ready to wake up every day early in the morning, have some sleepless nights, be tired as a dog, eyes red, everything, exhausted, mad at the world sometimes? Like, are you going to be ready? It's like, are you going to be ready for that? Like, you know, and that passion, again, is what's going to like push you through it, right?
Especially because you do the stilettos too on the stage, which was one of my glaring questions is how does that like, we'll get to it later, but I don't think people quite understand. I don't do what you do, but like even a YouTube video, the 42 takes you have to do for a YouTube video, I can't even imagine. Right. Because
the passion, right?
out.
I'm like, I want to make this great.
Yeah.
So you might go to bed, you know, sore, like, I mean, beat up, shot. But it's like, for me, you know, what do they say? Sometimes beauty is pain. Like, you know, it's worth it for me because my mission is to be the best I can be. My passion is what like drives me. Like, I want my fans to have the best experience and visual, right? Like visual experience, performance experience, song experience. So like, again, it goes back to my passion for that, right? So I'm always like, the day that I stop having that passion and love for what I do, then I stop.
Then you're out.
Because I know I won't. I mean, what you have to put into it, like there's not enough zeros to quantify, you know, the hard work, you know, or at least you're trying to work to get enough zeros to quantify. But who knows? You may never get it. So that's why the passion is so important.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this quote from Emma Bombeck. She was like an old school feminist, but she says like, when I stand before God at the end of my days, I hope I will be able to say I'm wrung dry. I have not one drop left.
I love that.
I know. I always think about that.
Yeah.
Like that's what it takes. You got to like do the work that is fun for you that other people feel like is work.
100%.
And then you win.
Yeah, 100%. So I would say the passion, I would say, you know, once you've locked into that vision of what you want to do, it is big to write it down, like to write down your goals, like surrounding it, you know. And then if you have other goals in general that aren't even connected to it, like write down your goals. Because again, like what's your compass? Like, you know, for me, in this very moment in my life, I'm overdue a whiteboard session. Like I love whiteboard sessions.
Love a whiteboard.
Right? You know, like you put everything up on the board. It helps you to see clear, like, what do you have going on at this moment? And then what do you need to do less of? And then are we staying focused? Yeah. You know, so like, again, check your compass. Set your compass and then continually check it.
Yeah.
But yes, write it down, right? And then there's this part of like believing, right? Believing in the vision and then speaking life into it.
I love that line. So when you're whiteboarding, is this like, do you and your husband whiteboard?
We whiteboard together.
Stop it, that's adorable.
We do.
Who's in charge of the marker?
Our team. We both get on the board. we are both so passionate and so determined together to accomplish our goals that we have individually and together. You know, it's important, I think, for one hand to know what the other hand is doing. We both feel that way. Yeah. And so we love a whiteboard because it also, in the midst of our like hectic lives, because his world goes a mile a minute, my world goes a mile a minute, our minds go a mile a minute, but it helps us to kind of be like in sync in the midst of the chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we love doing it with our teams, So, yeah, I think if you have those visualization, writing it down, believing in it, writing it down and speaking life into it, those things work,
Yeah.
and they have worked. And then obviously, I'm a spiritual person, so I believe in praying over what I'm trying to accomplish. It's really significant, and it's a very important piece, like I believe it's Habakkuk 2:2. And please forgive me if I'm misquoting it. All of the people that have the Bible down to the
They'll
T,
tell
which is one of
us
my
on the
goals,
internet.
right?
They'll tell us.
But it says, write it and make it plain. It's a really, or faith without, what is it? Faith without works is dead, or there's these different things that they say. It's like, you got to believe in the vision. You got to be clear in your vision. Don't be all over the place. Hone in on what you really want to accomplish, and then go for it.
Yeah. My pastor the other day said something that I was like, that's so good. Sometimes I feel a little guilty asking for material things or stuff in life, right? And he was like, who are you to think that God is so small that he can't handle that and everything else? And I was like, I don't know, but I feel that,
Yeah.
So is there I love that you're talking about faith. I think it's like we were talking about it before. It's having a little bit of a resurgence. It's okay to talk about it publicly. I feel like for a while it wasn't so public. But I'm curious for you, how do you integrate faith into what you do? Your husband and you are both faith-based from what I can understand. And what does even praying over it look like to you?
Oh, man. You have to have faith because you're going to be tested. Right. You're going to be challenged. You're going to fall, right? And when you fall, what do you go to? What is your, what do you fall back on? What helps you to get back up? It's your faith. It's the ability to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And for me, I'm always looking towards the light. And even if I have a moment where I have to pause and regather myself, I'm sincerely, I really mean what I'm saying. I'm not even saying it just to say it. I always see the light at the end of the tunnel. My philosophy is also too, the sun is shining no matter where I am. You get people talk about the weather, and they're they're living in Seattle. They're it's always so gloomy. Listen, the sun is always shining no matter where I'm. That's my mentality. Right? But you have to see the light because, again, it goes back to that passion, right? Your passion is going to drive you. But, man, when it gets tough and you're can this really happen? This feels impossible. This feels insurmountable. I got to stand on something. And my faith is the truest thing. It's the one thing that also gives me peace. It's the one thing that makes my weight or the heaviness of things feel lighter because it allows me to believe again. It allows me to reinstill my hope, to get things where they need to be and just to stay the course.
Yeah.
So I picked up my phone because there was this thing I looked up about faith the other day. Faith strengthens us during trials. Because we live in a sinful, fallen world, we will face difficulties, but our faith is what helps us remain strong during hard times. We have an enemy, and it's our faith that acts as a shield to protect us from his schemes and plots. Above all, taking the shield of faith, which you will be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one. Ephesians 6:16. It says, we should not be surprised when our faith is tested. James 2:3 says that the testing of your faith, I love this one. I can just say it without looking because it's one of my favorite scriptures, but the testing of your faith produces perseverance so that you may be mature and not lacking, right? Good. And it says before that, to consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds, for the testing of your faith produces perseverance. So you will be mature and not lacking, right? That's the whole. But think about that ability to consider it pure joy when you're in the toughest part of your life or feels like the toughest part. To have faith, to be able to smile through it all. Oof. What a feeling. I remember having a really hard time, it was some years ago. And this is a scripture that Russ and we love. It's one of our favorite ones. And I remember him saying it to me, and it was almost like a weight was lifted because it was a reminder, there's going to be something so good. There is some gold in this valley.
This moment.
There is something that's going to be so good that's going to come out of this. And I've just got to stay the course, keep my faith. So, yeah.
Is that ever hard to have faith like that in Hollywood? I'm such an outsider, but people say so many things about the place and how crazy the music world is.
World. It's really interesting. I will say this. I believe that my spiritual foundation is really important. And I think if I went to school, I'd be a psychologist, I swear.
Ooh.
Like there's something that I'm really fascinated with about how the mind thinks and processes. And I do think that in our industry, it can be a very dark world because oftentimes people are finding themselves, one, you got to be mindful, don't glorify man and things. We are in an industry that makes you, kind of pushes you to do that. Like you look at others and they may be way ahead of you and you're like, I want their life or, awards, like you feel like that's the high point, like all these tangible things that you can't even take with you anyways, right? But people sometimes, like in the Bible, it also says, what good is it for a man to gain the world and lose his soul? You can have everything and have nothing. And I feel like that's a more commonality in my industry than not. And I think the examples of that is in, when people, like I was reading something about, I want to be mindful because I don't want to feel like I'm calling someone out, but someone, an actor who was massive, like he's living homeless at this moment. He went through some tough times. And then you see another moment where someone's kind of like, you can see them mentally battling things, like all these different scenarios. And like, it's real, and you can help want to pray for people. But it's like, man, like you just pray for God's protection, right? I'm like, we got to have a foundation of, for me, God and Jesus are important for me, faith, all those things. You have to. And then like run your own race at your own pace, like don't be distracted by what's happening to the right and left of you. Like if someone's having a successful moment and they feel like you work harder than them and like, why am I not there? Like, don't even question it. Like your journey of success is perfectly designed for you. Your big moment's going to happen for you when it's supposed to happen for you. So celebrate those moments, like change that energy, flip it. Don't be jealous, of it. Like actually celebrate those individuals, give them a pat on the back, like, all those things and just like be good with where you are. Right?
That's so true and hard to do, but so true.
Yeah.
But you've seen the full spectrum. You've gone through tons of cycles. I'm sure has there ever been a moment where you felt like the whole internet hated you? Like you got a ton of hate? Really?
Yeah. For sure.
It's like every Tuesday. I know it's
no,
hard.
I mean, listen, I don't know what one great that hasn't, reached some of the highest points that hasn't been told they can't or hasn't been tried to be knocked down. And that's a part of the process. And again, I think those moments, like they make you more bulletproof. Because I'll be darned if I let a human tell me what I can and can't be. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, you can try and write it all kind of ways. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I'll be taking names. I'll be taking screenshots because I'll be like, I'm gonna run this back when I go platinum again, like, oh, remember, like, okay, noted. Sometimes I actually do that. I might need to share a couple of names. I was playing. No, but
let's do it.
Yeah,
I do
no,
it too.
no.
Like there's something about a chip on your shoulder.
Well,
I keep a name.
Yeah.
I had a guy tell me, I hope one day you get more followers because you dumbed down the firm today. Like I remember the exact sentence.
Wait, what?
And I screenshotted that shit. I have it to this day. Sometimes because I'm real low, I'll have the audience go, F you, Dan. I wish I was better. I am trying, God. But it also fuels me.
Oh my gosh,
so it makes me feel better that you sometimes keep names too.
No, I do. I do. I don't want to spend too much weight on those people, but I do. And I think, you use it as motivation, like it lets you know, like, they say that, Russ is a line he would say, the greater you great, the more they hate. Like it lets you know that you're doing something right, that they have something to say, right? It's like, okay, I'm making you feel some kind of way. Let me stay the course.
Let's talk about like love and relationships a little bit. Like not only have you had this big successful career, and I know that every relationship has got its things, and I'm very happily married and he's incredible, but we fight. We just try to fight fairly if we can.
Yeah. Fights are healthy sometimes.
I think so. At least we need it. I'm Spanish, he's Greek. We're crazy.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, yeah, we're not docile. But, now you have this beautiful partnership. What is some of the things you do, some of the secrets that you have? How do you stay grounded and happily married in a world that is chaotic and a crazy career too.
Yeah, I think, well, we always say, we said it since day one we got engaged. It was actually part of the first conversation we had after he proposed to me. It's like we say having Jesus at the center. Having a spiritual foundation is really important because, what is it? Like lean out on your own understanding. Sometimes when we put the matters into our hands, it gets real tricky, But I would say communication, man. Sometimes you have to have hard communication moments. And I do believe that, at least historically for us, whenever we've had a conversation where it's like, okay, this is a big conversation, so many good things have come out of it, right? And we've grown together through those moments. So you can't be afraid to talk about the stuff that makes you uncomfortable. Communication rules a nation. I've always said that. And we really believe in doing that, and so I think that's important.
How did you decide that he was your dude?
I knew.
Right away?
Yeah, they say when you know, you know. It's funny because he and I, when we were talking the first night in person, is a really unique situation, because my dad was actually at my house and my firstborn was at my house too. And, I said, well, we were meeting up as friends, and he's like, I wouldn't meet up just to be no friends, We joke about, we laugh about that. Yeah. No, but it was, more so than anything because in this world that we live in, unfortunately, when you step outside, like normal people would when you're dating, if someone sees you, they preset things for you, and so you want to protect that and give yourself a chance to really get to know each other. So when we were talking, in person for the first time, we literally forgot to eat, right? We were supposed to eat at some point, and he had a meeting actually, and then I needed to get my food. We talked about a restaurant that we liked in the conversation. But anyways, we chatted, for hours. And, when we were talking, I'm like, he's different. And the initial conversation that we had felt like no initial conversation I ever had in my life. And I remember calling my best friend and makeup artist, Yolanda Frederick Thompson. I called her and I said, Yoli, I was like, I don't want to jinx anything. I was like, but I think, and I didn't even want to say it. And she said, he's the one. And I go, yes. Oh. And the same thing for him when he was talking to his friend, after we were together, he said the same thing, right? But you just know, when you know, you know. It's a feeling, you can't fully describe it, but you know the difference. And so that's my story. Yeah.
I felt the same way with my husband.
You did?
Yeah, totally. Well, we've known each other since we were 11. So I guess when I first met him, when I was 11, I wasn't feeling that way. But we reconnected later in life. He stayed friends with my dad. They're very close. But our first date was 3 days, which is crazy because we went to a music festival. And then 3 weeks later, we moved in together. And
so wait, how did you guys, okay, you're friends, but when you reconnected, the energy was like, we're connecting on some other stuff. Okay, because I'm like, how y'all just turned to like, we're going to go on some dates. Like, okay. Yeah. So wait, then what happened? You said you moved in when?
3 weeks later.
Oh my gosh.
Which
so
is
it's crazy.
Unhinged. I'm like not that unhinged.
How long have you guys been married for?
We've been married for 7 years.
So
and been together for 10. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, we're going on year 10 of being married.
Congratulations. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's funny because, thank you. We always say we were hanging out ever since we met. So, shortly after then I'm living in Seattle and now here we are.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What do you think? I mean, I know it's always tricky giving relationship advice, but it seems like a lot of statistics. People are getting married less than ever. They're finding less love, having less sex. And you could feel a certain way about those things. But I think there are a lot of people out there that are looking for their person.
Mm-hmm.
What do you tell a young woman or a not so young woman about how to find their person or how to be a type of person that attracts your person?
Well, see, I think it goes back to some of that stuff I was saying earlier about manifestation and speaking life. And I think there's also the take care of self phase. That's important for us, right? Like we have to, I think, love on ourselves first so we can be good with self, right? Yeah. And we don't want to be in a place where love is what makes us complete. Right? Love is a cherry on top, right? Now there is, a saying in the Bible about without love, like you have nothing. So now, you want to move from a place of love, like, you would say God is love, but yeah, I think that you want to be right with yourself first, right? Like, go out yourself sometimes. Like, it's okay to eat by yourself. Like, it's okay to be by yourself. Like, we have to embrace the self phase first, I think. And then I think that you have to like visualize what you want to attract in your life, right? What do you not want? What does he or she look like to you? How do they love on you? Like, how do they love on themselves? How do they love the people around them? Do they make the room better? Like, like you start to visualize all these things. And I do believe that there's power in that because you know what I do think we do sometimes? When you lawfully throw in the air that I want love, but you don't define it, you will get that. But then when you put in the air, like, I want love, but under these conditions, or it looks like this, like it feels like this, like it makes me feel like this. Like you start to like have this thing to where it's like when you see it, you go, that's it. Yeah. But you're not able to see it if you don't define it.
It's so true.
Right?
It's like trying to explain a zebra to somebody who's never seen it. You're like, but once you've seen it, you're like, stripes, black and white,
that's exactly it.
Donkey. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I also, what's interesting about your relationship, if you guys have built businesses together. So we have one of your businesses right here, which we haven't even tried yet. I can't believe you made me coquitos.
So I made you coquito. I have to shout out Tony Chapman, the chef, because she taught me how to make this for the first time.
No way.
And when I tell you, I could not stop going back. No, for real. Because you can like slick get lit because it tastes so good.
I had to be hammered by the end of this podcast.
But it's a fun holiday drink.
Thank you.
So
this is lovely. And this is your rum.
10 to 1 rum. I'll tell you a little bit after the first sip.
This is delicious.
Oh my gosh.
Also, I feel kind of fancy. You just stick this cinnamon stick in here. I'm into things that are fancy but super easy. You know what I mean?
Pops of detail.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not complicated.
No.
Some coconut, condensed milk. We have our white rum and our dark rum. And I'll just tell you, there's 0 sugars in our rum. We want people to reimagine rum, right? Look at rum in a way that you've never seen it before. Get out of the colonial, got to make it in pina colada, strawberry daiquiris only.
Yeah.
Rum can play. We say to any other spirit, anything you can do, rum can do better. Just facts. But no, seriously, like you can have so much fun with rum. So like, for example, you're Latina. And we like margaritas. I said we, because I'm Mexican. I'm Mexican, okay? Black and Mexican.
I've never heard that before.
Yes.
I love that.
Black and Mexican, but I love a margarita, but I take the rum, I call it a rumarita. Yeah. So you do the white rum in place of the tequila.
That's hot.
Yes, but you can have fun. Like you can have so much fun and play, and that's been an amazing discovery for me on the journey of rum and sharing my story. That was the first drink I ever had in my life was rum at 21, and so... It's a real thing for
21?
Me. Yeah, first time.
You never had a drink before 21?
Never.
Good for you.
I accidentally sipped some gin in my mom's fridge. I thought it was water.
That sounds awful.
That's
not okay.
I spit that thing out so fast, but my first drink, official, like, this is what I'm doing, was 21.
That's wild. I was not as good as you. I had a few cocktails.
Well, you're Latina, so I start early.
I'm going to blame it on
I'm
that.
Mexican, so I understand.
But also you speak Spanish. Actually, I heard a funny thing about you. I heard you can do all the accents.
Yeah, kind of. I can. I play around.
What's
I think
your
it's the
favorite
military baby in me.
Oh, that's probably part of it. Well, plus you're an entertainer. Like even the way you say sentences is interesting because they're thoughtful. Like you said a thing, 2 ways. One, I want to hear your favorite accent.
This is so good.
Dude, I'm telling you.
My favorite accent is Latin, is Mexican. Come
okay,
or Spanish.
What's the best accent?
Hola, me llamo Ciara. Yo no espero. Estoy muy agradecida para hoy o para el día.
Nailing
y yo, yo estoy muy agradecida.
Oh, I'm happy to have you too.
Sí.
I want to tell you, I hear you can do a crazy Steph impression.
Oh my gosh.
I think we should embarrass her.
She's like, girl, I don't know if I'm going to be up in there like that because we ain't going to be doing that interview if they talking crazy. We ain't doing it. I'm telling them right now. I'm going to call them up. Watch this. You know,
Dude,
I'm from Decatur, Georgia, so
you nailed that. People
I'm a
don't know
Southern
her,
girl.
but like I'm a little bit crying.
No, she will. That's that voice, right?
Yeah,
I'm going
100%.
to tell him we ain't calling his ass.
Oh my God. She
I'm
told
going
me
to call
this
him
one
right back.
story about like throwing a shoe. And she was like, I can't do accents, but
Yeah.
she was like, I told them if you throw a shoe at me, you better knock me out.
That's
'cause
exactly
I'm coming at you.
Exactly.
I was
She
like,
said, she's like, I'm a chihuahua. She said something crazy about being a chihuahua in a pit bull's body or something she said that was crazy. A pit bull in a chihuahua's body or something. And I was like, and the pit bull always wins. You know, it's something about the tiny ones. They're just so big. But
you know
I
what?
am
Shout
obsessed.
out to the tiny ones.
Shout out to the tiny ones, yes. But I am obsessed with like, you know, languages. So like my biggest thing is when I travel, I like to, it's kind of my way of showing respect and appreciation to that region or that country. And I love being able to always say like, hi and bye and thank you. So if I go to Japan, I say, Choto nihongo hanashimasu. Watashi no namae wa Asera desu. Hi. You know, arigatou gozaimashita. Toire wa doko desu ka? Like, I'm really big on like knowing, you know, how to communicate, how to get around. And my biggest thing is to ask how to do it. So if I want to learn, because I'm like a little obsessed with learning languages. And so if I want to say in Japanese, how do you say? I say, nante uno. Nante uno water. Nante uno, where's the bathroom? You know, and they'll say, toire wa doko desu ka? Or like, so I do that. Or in Spanish, como se dice, I love you, or como se dice, you know, which we know, te amo mucho, or, you know, but I'll say that, or, you know, if I'm in France, I would say, bonjour, je m'appelle Ciara, comment allez-vous? Ça va bien, et toi? Au plaisir de vous voir. Like I always would say that to my fans, like it's so nice to meet you, you know, merci beaucoup. Or if I go to China, it's ni hao, xie xie, you know, bukachi. Like I love doing that, you know. And my dad was in the Army, my mother was in the Air Force. So it's a military baby in me that's like kind of obsessed, you know.
So do you like go out on the stage and you say their language too?
Yeah, so if I'm in Japan, I say Migi Hidaidi.
Oh,
you know,
I bet they
like
booze
right
it.
side. Oh yeah, undo bouge in French is 1-2 step. I remember back in the days, I would do that.
I love that.
And then if I'm in London, I would say, darling, how are you? You're right. Are you lovely? It's lovely to see you. You know, I'm going apples and pears to get some Rosie Lee. It's like good, isn't it? Is it all right? I'm like, so amazing, right? Yeah. But whatever. I love to do, you know, it's fun. It's really fun. And I'm going to tell you, talk about being determined. I wanted to learn how to speak with an English accent so bad. And listen, I am not perfect, okay, with it, but I do my best. But I had to audition for a movie. It was a big movie. And I had to speak with an English accent. And I went to go and audition for it. And literally in the... I had like 3 days to learn how to speak with an English accent. And I had been trying to do it anyways. It was so bad. I pray no one ever sees that tape. But I was like, I've got a baby in me tummy. And I'm like, I've got to like, it was worse than that. You know, because I really couldn't get like and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get it. Like I was so determined. You know,
good for you.
Yeah.
My husband says they all sound like a Mexican Russian, which is not really good. That's not a good combo.
So, you sound like a Mexican
Yeah,
Russian?
when I do my accents, they all just like converge
Oh my gosh.
to the mixture
Hilarious.
of the two. It's not good. But I do think, you know, I think there's something really beautiful about this like curiosity, you know, like you continue. Your bio is so fascinating. Like we talked about 10-1 a little bit, which I hear is like one of the most awarded rums out there. I had no idea, by the way. And then you also have Third Brand, which is
3 Brand.
3 Brand. And 3 Brand Children's Apparel Company. Is it public that you did $100 million in revenue in 2024? Can we say that?
Yeah, you can.
That's wild.
Yeah, we've been
These
very,
are big
very
businesses.
blessed. Yeah, you know, I got to say it's been an incredible journey. You know, I think especially like you mentioned, doing everything together.
Yeah.
You know, talk about a why not you attitude, because we obviously have our why not you foundation, and we're just big believers in like, you know, once we believe in something or we set out to do something, most importantly, being connected, genuinely connected to what we do, right, is important. Like you got to have that authenticity factor. And so 10-1 Rum, as I mentioned, was a genuine spirit for me that I, you know, love since day one. And I love the challenge of getting people to understand the beauty of rum. And with 3 Brand, Russ that's really his jam. We talk about sports, music, and fashion, the three, three of the most powerful forces, in the world, and the power of what happens when they come together. And when you get to do it through youth, the youth is really important to us. We really love being able to speak life into the youth with the why not you mentality. When it comes to fashion, it's a fun place to play in and a fun place to activate in. We obviously have our kids, family is really important to us. And we get to share, our passion and pour our passion and love into the brand, to 3 Brand as a whole. And it's a gift, when you say those numbers for just 2024 alone. We've been on this journey for like almost 3 years, so you can multiply that by 3, right? Which is a blessing. And so, it's not ultimately about that. It's really about the ability to impact. That's our ultimate goal. We love being able to impact and inspire kids in such a great way. And there's nothing better than doing it through fashion. So it's been a fun journey. And it's the coolest thing, when we're taking our kids to school and you see other kids wearing 3 Brand, it's like, hey, like Russ was like saying to your dad, it's like, hey, that's my brand, and it's the cutest thing. It makes you feel proud. It makes you feel motivated. And, we've got some exciting things happening for the brand, and it's really just getting started.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's fascinating about you is like, obviously your songs are huge and you've done all these brand deals, but it feels like from a business perspective, you're starting to talk about business even more now with the podcast that you have or the show that you have.
Oh, Apple Radio, Level Up Radio on Apple Music.
There you go. And I think it's really cool because I don't even know that, we've all known you. I remember when your first album came out, we've like known you publicly for a long time. But even when I was prepping for this, I was like, holy hell, she's done so much more than I realized. Like, what do you think is one of your like business superpowers? Like, why is 3 Brand $100 million? Like, what are the things you're like, we're so good at culture here, or we think about the design this way that nobody else does? Like, what is that for you, do you think, in some of these brands?
I think it goes back to quality. Quality is everything. You can talk a good game all day, but it comes down to how well does the item perform. I think that we do really great at quality when it comes to our products and the things that we associate ourselves with. I think
has to be hard, right? Because you're getting pitched a billion things a day.
Yeah, it is. But, fortunately, a lot of the things that we've been doing, we've actually kind of started them. And then there's like investment opportunities that you do. And that's like kind of gambling a little bit. You're taking a risk. And those, it's great when it works. Yeah. But the cool thing is that a lot of the brands that we're focused on right now are ones that have come directly from us to some extent. 10 to 1, actually, my partner, Mark Farrell, I met him a year after he got going with 10 to 1. It was in the middle of the pandemic. And I was pregnant as all get out. And then I also breastfed for 10 months long enough. And it was time for me to celebrate that moment. And I had a mojito with the white rum, the 10 to 1 white rum. And again, I had already had my passion about rum, but I was really curious about this brand. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And then I met my partner, and then, now we're 5 years in the journey, and I serve as an investor and a proud co-founder and co-owner. And but it goes back to quality and the people too. People are everything. And then culture. I think culture is really key. When we think about like the challenges, or not even just the challenges, but like the fun parts of like 10 to 1, like the culture of people that we get to engage with. I get to work with some of the best chefs in the world. Like I was with Chef Kwame, and we're actually in all of his restaurants, 10 to 1 is. And, people like him, or, Tony, as I mentioned to you, Tony Chapman, and, all these talented people, we get to like engage with people culturally. There's that Afro-Caribbean energy that's really coming strong. And like, that's a big part of like our energy too, the Caribbean piece of it. So culture is everything. And then, the places that we get to go to on the ground and how we get to touch and activate with people. And then when it comes to 3 Brand in particular, again, it goes back to culture too, right? There's this sports energy. And as I mentioned, sports, music, and fashion, like those are all big pieces of Russ and I, right? So we get to we do this every day, right? And we get to bring it all together. And community is really important for us, right? So I feel like that's another aspect that we really, I would say, tap into really well and are very connected with, because we love the people.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about partnerships in varying ways.
Yeah.
But I'm sure a lot of people want your time and attention. So like, how do you determine, hey, I want to partner with this person.
Passion.
I want this person in my life. Like, what's the screen?
Oh, the person, when it comes to people, you have to connect, I think it's important that your vision, your how you see things, how you connect to things, like it has to be aligned, right? And what's a person's vision, and can they add value, right? You want to be around people that can bring even more than you can at times, right? That you can grow with, you can learn from. Like, I don't want to be the person with all the answers. I think if that's the case, then we're in trouble, right? Because I definitely don't know all the answers. I need help, So you want to be surrounded by like-minded individuals. You want to be around people that, share the same vision as you. And maybe it's people that have already been there before. So they can pass down their wisdom. Like, that's my greatest goal right now at this point in my career is I want to work smarter, not harder. And also being a mom and being there for Russ. I say I have my 4 babies. Russ is my biggest one. Okay? You already know. Okay?
I do.
Our men, they be babies. They be babying. But, so like that's a real thing, right?
Yep.
So it's like, how do I work smarter and not harder at this point in my life and in my career?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I made that mistake so many times early on in my career. I would partner with somebody who like hadn't figured anything out yet.
Yeah.
And then I would work harder than them. Or they wouldn't, I'm sure with you, it's got to happen. They're like, I see her, like I want to be associated with all that. Let me get on that coat train,
Yeah.
And at some point we just realized like we're not going to partner with somebody who hasn't already shown, like the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, I think. So like you got to show that you're winning. You got to show that you want to work harder than I do because there's so many people that don't. And I think a lot of times with partnerships, we like buy into them in the same way we buy into like somebody's potential. And so we're like, no, I'll fix him.
Yeah.
Like how many of us have said that? And so I think that's really interesting. So have you, like with the mark, like if somebody's trying to figure out their avatar of like, all right, how do I trust somebody, which is so big today?
Yeah.
Like, how are you like, here's what I ask them, here's what I do, or here's how I knew?
Yeah. I mean, trust, I think you build over time. I don't think I'll ever trust someone from day one. I think trust is earned. And I can smell very early if I should trust or not trust someone. I can tell you this. I can tell you on day one if I can't trust you.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, I'm very pretty good with that. I got a good gut. That's the gift that women have. Women have the gift of intuition that is crazy.
Yeah.
It's
a
a gift.
Shove it down, right? You don't.
Sometimes you
listen to
do.
it?
No. Sometimes people can, but no. I think when you've bumped your head a few times, you just know better, right? And then sometimes too, you do like to give grace. Like grace is important. But the moment you show me that I can't give you the grace or the grace pass should be revoked, I'm revoking it.
No second chances.
We ain't even playing with it.
It's actually smart. There's too many people. There's billions of people on this planet. They can go try with somebody else.
Yeah,
with
no,
love.
100.
Over there.
Exactly. You keep that over there. But no, I think back to your point, people, too, I think history is great. Like, for example, my partner, Mark, he was the youngest vice president at Starbucks, right, before he started 10 to 1. And Howard Schultz was actually our first investor.
Oh, that's a great sign.
On the journey, right? And we have some amazing people at the party that are supporting us along the way. But I think, he also went to Harvard and he had a great educational background, but also too just his experience within the space and also his education within the space. And, also, again, it came back to the product. The product says a lot. People can talk a good game, but what's the product doing, right?
Yep.
So there's all these different things that you check off the box to make sure, your foundation is going to be a strong one and that you feel confident in the tools that you have to get going on things. And then time tells you everything, right? So yeah, I think the person that walks into the room is really important in anything that you do. Who are they as a human? First and foremost, right? Because you want to work with good humans, right? You really do. Because I think it makes it worthwhile when the times are tough and you have to come together and grind together. It's not easy, right? Grinding for 10 to 1, it's not easy. Because again, rum is a category that's like still telling a story, right? Tequila and vodkas and gins, they're already like,
that's a good point.
They've already like done it. Rum is still doing it, which is exciting because there's so much opportunity, and there's not many of us ladies in this category.
Zero. Yeah, I don't know one.
Which is
I'm
exciting.
Sure there are some, but that is exciting.
You know, so
I love being a first.
Yeah.
You know, that's amazing. And you know, what's interesting is like you have all of these practices now, it seems like, that you do every day. And these things that have led you to be the person that you are today. What are some of the things that if you knew them when you were 20, that you know now, would you tell like, God, I wish 20-year-old Sierra would have done this every day?
Just be patient. That's the greatest thing is like, that's why I say run your race at your own pace, because what life has shown me, like 21 years later, right? I am, you know, and I would say a little bit before 21 years later, you know, after Goodies came out. But I remember, you know, being signed to systems and like, you know, wanting to do certain things or achieve certain things. And like, when are they going to happen? Like, and I was very blessed. A lot of my songs were really big out the gate. But still, you could have that big hit record, but then you're like, and then what? And then like, I'm missing this. I still feel like I'm missing this, and this. Yeah. But it's taken me 21 years to now start having certain things like happen for me how I've always wanted them to. So it just shows me like the power of patience. Like, you know, there's this saying where they say like a parent would be like, patience is a virtue. They would say that when you're young, like, what is that? What does that even mean? Patience is a virtue. You know, it's like, I'm trying to get to patience. I bump the virtue stuff. Like, this is what I'm trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Like,
100%.
But, you know, when you understand life and the way that it goes, it's all going to work itself out. And you got to trust the process. Like, you've got to keep your faith, right? So, but if I could, you know, think back to when I was younger, you know, I would just say the patience factor, you know, and I would also remind myself, like, again, don't glorify man. Yeah, don't glorify the things on this earth, because some of the people that I looked up to that were like, you know, I thought the coolest and the biggest ever, you know, they've had their own journey. I don't want to speak negatively on anyone, but it's like everything's not what you think it is, you know? So like just worry about you.
Yeah.
Worry about you, you know?
You have had a bunch of like new albums come out, obviously. They're crushing. Level Up, does it ever happen to you where like you hear a song and you don't realize it's yours? Like Level Up, I didn't even realize was a Sierra song, and I was like singing it. And then, but you know, as you're creating today, what does that look like? Like if you want to tap into the muse, if you want to find it, if you want to get your creative juices, what do you do? Is there a process?
Well, it depends on what I'm doing. Musically, you know, it's so funny. I'm actually like really in my Afro diaspora bag right now. And so I kind of like to let life take me wherever it takes me when I'm making music. You know, the cool thing about music is that it's a feeling. It's nothing technical. So that's the place I'm playing in. Like I have my song Nice and Sweet with Molly and Oxley that I just put out. Yeah. Molly's from Ghana. Yes. Hey, get it.
I'm not dancing next
to
you.
That was good. Okay. Molly's from Ghana. Oxley's from Nigeria. And then my friend, also Diamond Platinum's on my song Low. He's from Tanzania. I just recently went to Benin, Cotonou, and I got to get my dual citizenship. I got my passport, the first international artist or American artist or any person to participate in this new program that they had that His Excellency President Talon granted me the opportunity to have there. And I'm just deeply connected to that place right now, this place right now. So I'm living in that moment, right? Yeah. And I think that when you're like committed to a creative direction, you start to delve deeper into things it's just fun to you, and it just naturally like takes you there. But I think I let life like kind of tell me where I want to go. And then there's also a sonic connection. You know, I can hear sounds or hear a song and be obsessed with, like, I do know where I want to go next right now in my mind. Right now I'm here, but I know what I want to do next. And it may take me a second to just chill and do it. Like, I'm not going to rush it, but I'm also not going to take forever either, you know? But I just go with like what feels how I feel. Music is a feeling. It's not technical.
I love that. So you're kind of like following your curiosity down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And
Follow
then,
my curiosity, going where the music takes me. Yeah, you just flow with it, But you do, oftentimes when you go in to make music, you do have some kind of ideal direction because that's what leads you to the producers you want to work with and the writers you want to work with. So you do typically have a creative base, but then there's this thing that when you start to create, then the magic really happens when you just let it happen, right? But you have some kind of like baseline foundation of where you want to start from.
love that. Question for me and for nobody listening is like the abs. What are we doing?
First of all, let me tell you, you're so sweet because my abs do not be abbing. Let me tell you why I say that, okay? Okay, listen. I say this because I've had my fourth precious baby, as we all know, and they gave me something called diastasis recti, okay? Some people say diastasis recti or whatever it is, but my ab wall is like kaputs. Wow. So my abs will never be the same, okay? Now, do I work hard to get down and like back to my base weight? I do. I have not gotten back down all the way after my last baby, Amora, and she's almost 2. But I'm giving myself some grace, okay?
You look so good.
I really appreciate that. Russ, he's like, babe, now, whatever you're doing, don't get too crazy because he likes a little hips to grip, okay?
I know, my husband too.
Yeah,
it's us
I don't
women.
mind
We're
it.
the hard part
No,
on us.
let me tell you something. I was looking at something. I said, now, where did that don't come from? Because I've been praying for this all my life. Praying for that dog. The babies gave me something, So I'm like, I'm going to hold on for as long as I can hold on, But your babies do give you some hips. They give you a little bit more, a little bit more than you want sometimes. But I it's funny because I'm actually going to really like dive into trying to train my core even better. It's a thing. I'm literally holding on for dear life sometimes because the diastasis makes your belly like push, like the instinct is for it to go out versus like in. Any mom or woman knows. Yeah. So you're like, it's an extra second for the carpet. So it's like,
oh yeah,
keep it together.
I always like that. I always like that Jamie Lee Curtis thing where she's like, I've been holding my abs in for 30 years. I'm done. She's like, no more. No, I'm at 30 years. I'm out.
Listen, I be baggy because I just be like, I ain't got time for this every day. Now, when I want to get snatched, then I get ready. Like I may eat like different. Like I'm doing a red carpet tomorrow, so today I'm kind of going no carbs. So I'll be strategic. Oh yeah, now the coquitos está bien. See,
doesn't count.
Sí, it's all right.
Well, I'm going. You're friends with Ashley Graham too, right?
Yes.
So she has some award show tonight that I'm going to with her, and I told her I was like, I'm feeling a little. I call it fluffy. Like I'm feeling a little fluffy lately.
Yeah.
And so I bought a dress specifically because it could wrangle it in the midsection. But I love her because she doesn't give a fuck.
No, she's
like,
amazing.
No, we have another doctor friend who's like trying to like, hey, I want you to do, and Ashley's like, if you try to make me skinny, she's like, no GLP-1s. I'm not into it. And I'm like, I'm over here thinking I would take a GLP-1 if I trusted it,
I don't even know what that is, but
that's like, what are those? What's it called? The thing that's making everybody skinny in
Hollywood.
It's There's another word for it.
What is that thing called?
Ozempic.
What?
So
this is Steph. I'm like, what is it?
Ozempic.
I don't hate
that. Yeah, exactly. So we'll just stay a little thick.
Listen, man, to each his own. I think the greatest thing is we just have to embrace the journey, honestly. Like, give yourself grace when you need. I think that's been probably one of the best things I could have given myself along the way in the journey of motherhood is grace. Because you have to, like, when I say to you, life be lifing, it be turned up, being a mom of multiple kids and, managing all the personalities. I was like saying the other day, I'm like, maybe it's called a mama pist. There's a therapist and there's a mama pist because I'm just telling you, like, everybody's got a different story. Every kid has a different story. They're walking TV stations and they have their own programming. And it's like, who we gonna get today? Okay, got it. Like, I'm ready for everything now, But so grace, though. Good. You got to give yourself grace.
I love this. Okay, I want to end on, what are you most excited for this year? We got 10-1. We've got maybe, what else?
So we have 3 brand, which we're super excited about our growth and Just
What's your
the
favorite piece of clothing from it? Like if I'm going to go buy for my holidays right now, what are you like? You know what? I love our jerseys. I
well,
love our.
the thing is we focus more on the youth right now, so we're not so much into the adult
What
wear
if I'm going to
yet.
give some
Yet,
gifts to
but
the
if you're gonna give some
kids?
gifts, listen, our backpacks are amazing.
Okay, I like
Never
this.
go out of style.
I like it.
We just actually rusted this really cool gifting experience for Future's team, and I don't want to steal his thunder because I don't know what all I can reveal right now, but it was amazing to see how excited they were, and we have cool like duffels and all that stuff. So that's amazing. Our bags are awesome. The gift that keeps on giving, but just the whole clothing assortment. Honestly, you have everything in there that you can need, from great sweatpant, matching sweatpants to great athletic shorts and tees. There's a lot of shirts with great sayings on them and
Do you have Why
slogans
Not
like
You
"Go
on there?
Time." We have
Yeah,
"Level Up." We have "Why Not You."
I love that.
We also have, for the not just the Giants community, we have obviously stuff in red, white, and blue, but we have stuff in all colors, right? Which is awesome. So, you will have everything you need in the 3 brand shop. 3brand.com.
I
Just
love
saying,
it.
go there. But obviously 10 to 1, super focused on this baby. And we are, as you mentioned earlier, proudly the fastest growing and most awarded rum.
So sick.
Again, a great story to tell. We want people to reimagine rum. So we're going to stay on the course to do that.
Can we have your recipe for coquitos?
You sure
Put
can.
it on the website.
Come on,
I
of
like
course, tú
this.
sabes.
Yeah,
No
okay,
problema.
okay. We'll
And
put
then
a little
also,
link in. It's really, I'm not bullshitting. It's really good.
yay, so
I
good,
know,
right?
that's like better than eggnog. I think I'd like switch that out.
Mix it up. I'm telling you,
Lit.
it's a gift that keeps on giving too. Like you give a gift to someone, like Tony was telling me, we were talking about we're Boricuas when we were making it. Boricuas making coquitas. But you can just keep on making it. Like I'm excited to make new coquita for Thanksgiving.
Oh, I love that.
I'm excited for that. And then I also have my skincare line, OAM Skin.
Yeah.
And OAM stands for On a Mission. I say I'm a woman of ambition on a mission to make clinical skincare simple for all. And I was a girl that used regular body wash and, body lotion on my face. Like I did not give 2 cents about how I was taking care of me in that regard. And, during the pandemic, again, another baby that I also had was OAM. I started building OAM. Probably the perfect muse at that point because you're in the most sensitive place of your, with your skin. And so I started that journey then. My makeup artist, Yolanda, if you see her, like, sorry, Yoli, I always call her out. Everyone knows this, but she does not look her age. She is like a box of like wisdom and like, it's like anything she tells me, I really should listen because if you see this woman, you're going to be like, no way.
Well, you too. Your skin's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want some of that.
Thank you. So, she used to always tell me, she'd be like, did you use your eye cream? Did you use your eye cream? Like, she's just stop, And I'm like, maybe I should listen to her. Because, like, if you see her, like, she does all the right stuff. And so I started to, like, really take my skincare serious. And OAM was the results of that. And, I'll be very transparent. We're a baby company, right? We're in the process now of elevating, our formulations, or I want to say elevating, meaning we're going to increase, we're going to level up because we're going to add more to what we currently have.
What's your favorite product?
So it's funny because we're completely sold out of my one. That's one of my favorites, which is our hydrating cleanser. We've sold out of it multiple times.
Buy. We gotta do some marketing.
Let me tell you,
you.
I'm about to do it right now. I'm about to get to it.
Okay.
But I bring it up because I'm so proud that we've sold out of multiple SKUs several times, and we currently have our 20% serum, and which is very special. So it's 20% vitamin C serum, and we have the way that our vitamin C is formulated is it's what we call tricyclopeptide complex. So it allows the vitamin C to release in micro doses throughout the day so your skin doesn't get irritated when you use vitamin C. And the 20% dosage is a very unique dosage. It's very potent, and it's very rare you see that amount of vitamin C in a product, but that's also another unique component. But when I tell you, it's so good. Like your skin feels hydrated. You feel like it's just a great primer as well. Helps to protect, correct, and prevent. And so we're really big on that. And you can get that now. That is on the site. Okay. And then we also have our brightening pads.
Too.
Yes.
So for like anybody that comments, I don't know, level up, we'll give away a bunch of your favorite products.
Yep.
And my team will buy them and take care of them. So go to YouTube.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And we have our brightening pads, and
okay, we'll
those
give away
are
both.
amazing.
Actually, why don't you tell us your favorite beauty quote or something cute, and we'll pick one.
Favorite beauty quote?
Yeah, and I'll
for like what they have to
them
say.
do it. Yeah, and then I'll send it to you, and
Oh
you
my
can pick which
gosh,
one
what
you
a
like.
beauty quote. We don't.
Yeah.
What is a beauty quote? Like we don't have.
Like you know what I think about? It's like Marilyn Monroe was like she has so many good ones. She's like, if you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
I love that.
And then Pamela Anderson had one. She's coming into it lately. I like her a lot. She has one that's like, sex is a 3-letter word, but another way. Wait, what did she say? She's like, sexy is a 3-letter word, but it hits as hard as a 4-letter. And I was like, that's such a good one too. Like just being sexy. And
okay, so what I say actually at my company, my label is called Beauty Marks Entertainment. And I say that all the scars you get from the obstacles you face in life are your beauty marks.
Oh, that's hot. Oh, I did see that quote.
Yeah.
That's a
so
good
like
one.
Everything you've gone through, all the stuff that didn't feel so beautiful when you went through it, you know, all those things that felt ugly to you, they always amount to something so beautiful and so much greater than you could even imagine when you're going through them. And so those things are what we call our beauty marks. And even your stretch marks, they're your beauty marks, right?
Oh, I love that.
So yeah.
Sierra, this was amazing. Thank you so much. I'm excited to try your product and give it away. And thank you for being like such a generous soul. I can't believe you like made me. Now I don't have anything for you, but thanks for the gift. Now I owe you one.
Listen, I am like starting to rock over here in this chair. It's so good.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Salut. Thank you.
You're mid-sentence and you watch it happen in real time. The other person's eyes go soft. They nod, but it's the nod of someone who kind of stopped tracking you sentences ago. But you finish your point and they say totally, and then pivot the conversation to something else entirely. What happened? You weren't boring. You weren't wrong. You just lost their attention. And I've seen how this happens to smart people constantly. People who genuinely have something worth saying. And the reason it happens isn't intelligence or charisma or confidence. It's actual structure and psychology of the way you speak. It is learnable, but most people never study because we weren't taught how to have conversations this way. You're going to fix that. By the end of this episode, you'll have a toolkit for holding attention in any room, a one-on-one, a meeting, a dinner table, a pitch, and you'll learn how to avoid the 4 forgettability traps that make most people stop paying attention to you. I'm Codie Sanchez. This is the Big Deal podcast. Let's get your points heard. Part 1, the attention problem is physiological. Here's something that should humble all of us. The average human, they speak about 125 words per minute, but the human brain processes language at roughly 400 words per minute. So there's a really big gap, right? And your listener's brain, well, they fill it with grocery lists, whatever happened at work, whatever they left the oven on, the door open, because they're not just not paying attention to you. Their brain isn't being lazy. It's literally just efficient running in the background. And it's using all the unused bandwidth your voice isn't filling. So Harvard psychologist Matthew Killingsworth tracked what people were actually thinking during their daily lives. So he used an iPhone app and it pinged them at these random intervals. What did the data say? People's minds were wandering 47% of the time. So that's almost half of your life, your brain is distracted. And here's the part that actually matters. They reported being less happy when their minds wandered, regardless of what they were thinking about. So it actually makes you happier when you are present. Presence feels better than absence. But presence requires something to hold on to. So the question is, what holds a brain in place? And how do we use it so that other people are enraptured by us and we can take up the entirety of their brain processing so that they will hang on every single word? Well, in the 70s, there was a psychologist, Lowenstein, and he was at Carnegie Mellon. And this is interesting. He developed what he called the information gap theory. And this is the theory of curiosity and the gap between the information you present and what other people are piqued by. The idea is really simple. Curiosity isn't triggered by knowing nothing. Nope. It's triggered by knowing almost enough, like a partial answer, a question, but not the resolution, a setup, no payoff. The brain experiences this as a physical discomfort. So a gap, it's like, I got to close this. I know just enough. I got to close the rest. And you've felt this too, like the cliffhanger ending of a TV episode. That's the thing that keeps you from going to sleep, right? It's also the thing that brings you back next week. Or the song lyric that you can almost place, the name on the tip of your tongue. Those aren't actually accidents at all in the entertainment space. They're engineered tension. Great communicators, we steal this. And you can use this to engineer tension deliberately. You see, when you're a great communicator, they don't deliver information immediately. They withhold it strategically. So they kind of temporarily hold back to create this pent-up momentum. Think about how the best storytellers open. Do they just tell you what happened? Of course not. Do they give away the hook? Do they tell you all the context and backstory? No. Maybe they start with a question that can't be answered yet. Sometimes I think we worry about 452 things we could do to drive other people to pay attention to us. But what if it doesn't even have to be that you're so brilliant, or you pause perfectly, or you use the uptick perfectly? And instead, it's literally a sentence. So here's the practical rule. Before you explain something, create a reason to care about what you're explaining. I do not want you to lead with the answer. I want you to lead with the gap. Let's give some examples. Let's say that you're in a meeting and you want to answer a question that your boss is asking you. And they say like, hey, why haven't we hit our 2020 revenue targets? And you could just start answering. That's what 99% of people do, but you're not going to be a 99% communicator. Instead, you might say, have you ever wondered why 96% of our leads don't close? What are you doing? You're about to tell him your answer, which is, hey, actually, we don't have a revenue problem from a lead problem. We have a closing problem. The salespeople aren't closing. You could have just said that. But instead, you're asking an interesting question. And he's going to think about that. Now, what does that do? He's like, now I need to know the answer. Now I'm really paying attention. Now she's giving me something interesting. And so they're going to lean in. And I bet you get listened to more often when you do that. Now, think about it even just in a conversation. How many times have you fought for attention? Maybe you're at a dinner, you're with a group of friends, and there are some people that just feel naturally they're storytellers. Maybe they feel more communicative than you do. So let's say that you have something that you want to talk about. You just read something titillating on Twitter, right? You're like, oh, I just listened to this podcast episode from this incredible guy on AI. I want to tell them the story about it. Your natural inclination is going to be you just start talking about it. And you're going to lead with that. I just watched this incredible podcast and this is what happened and blah, 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 blah. And they may or may not be interested in it. But instead, if you think about what piqued your curiosity in that conversation, you might say, have you ever wondered when AI will turn into AGI and if there will be a day in which we have no jobs and thus the government has to pay us? People are going to be like, what? Why are you? I want to know more about that. Or if you want to be more, easy and straightforward, you could just say, have you ever wondered if the people who created AI are scared by it? Both fascinating questions. And then it might be like, yeah, I have kind of wondered that. And then bam, you give them the answer. So a practical rule is just start with a question. Part 2, the 4 drivers of forgettability. Now that we, know attention is a resource with real neurological limits, brain-based limits, let's talk about how most people burn through it without realizing it. I've found in studying communication and our CEOs and tons of research on the subject that there are 4 drivers that kill conversational presence, and they're all invisible to the person doing them. And we've seen all of these people, but we've never been able to name them. And you cannot not be them if you can't name them. So the first driver, if you want to be completely forgotten and have nobody listen to, you should do this. It's called the context dump. So it's the habit of front loading everything before you get to the point. Have you ever heard somebody go, a little background. So I've been working on this for a few months and there's a lot of history here. But basically what happened was back in 2019, I was starting to think about a subject. Oh my God, I am so bored. What happens is your listener is waiting for the payload and you're still loading the truck. So the journalists have a phrase for this. They say, you're burying the lead. Have you ever heard that before? Like newspapers, they learned fast that readers are going to bail if you don't get to the good part fast. So what do? The solution is a technique called the inverted pyramid. Both pyramids usually start like this. We're going to go upside down. The most important information, it goes first. Everything else descends from there. In conversation, this means starting with the conclusion, then walking backwards through the evidence. And your brain, it actually resists doing this in storytelling because our brains are made to chronologically order the events. That feels natural. But natural to you is torturous to your listener. Do not context dump. Be short, be sweet, and start with the spice. Driver 2, Semitic energy. Flat delivery creates flat engagement. Now, it doesn't mean what you're saying is flat, but because the brain actually uses variation in voice as a signal, meaning something has changed, something changed means something matters. Something matters means pay attention. So if you're monotone in your delivery, that actively disables this signal. And in fact, it's sort of fascinating if you go and you look at different languages and how they're created. Some languages are really guttural. You hear them back in the back of your throat. That's like German, for instance. Some language have a lot of tonality in it. For instance, that would be like Chinese. One word can actually mean 50 different things. That's like ma, 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 ma. You could have an entire sentence with that word. But it's the way that you deliver it, the tonality, that changes the signal. So the brain actually deprioritizes constant frequency information. It becomes sort of white noise, right? That's why lullabies work. If you want to put somebody to sleep, you just don't vary your tone. It's like why some people watch golf. You just listen to Jim Nantz talk about hitting down the fairway. It's beautiful outside today, right? It's very calming. But if you want them awake, you got to vary everything. Speed, volume, pause. The pause especially. Most people, I think, are terrified of silence in conversation. And I get it. It takes work. It feels uncomfortable. Somebody can steal your spotlight during it, but whoever comes or whatever comes after a well-placed pause, it actually hits with 40% more impact. And that's from real research on speech at the University of Amsterdam. So try really hard to do one thing. If you get silence, use it and allow it to sit there for a moment. Driver number 3, the abstraction ladder. So every idea exists on a spectrum from concrete ideas to abstract. Concrete would be like, she slammed her laptop shut and didn't say anything for 20 minutes. Abstract, the meeting didn't go well. Both sentences are the same thing. That is like literally what happened in both situations. But one of them, you can remember more. You're like, what? She slammed her laptop shut and then she was quiet for 20 minutes? You're going to immediately get a conversation back and forth as opposed to like, the meeting didn't go well. You're like, oh, okay, well, whatever. One of them you are going to remember and the other is forgotten before the next sentence even lands because the human brain actually doesn't care about abstractions. It doesn't store them. In fact, the human brain stores images, stories, specific moments. In fact, one of my executives constantly does this. He really likes to talk in theories. This is a huge mistake you make in communication if you're smart. Smart people like to use big words and abstractions. They think that it makes them sound smart. What it actually does is make you bored. And that is why a bunch of PhDs often have a really hard time getting people's attention, even though they're probably the person you should be listening to on most subjects. But how you'll know you talk in abstractions is when somebody goes something like, theoretically, when we're talking about this from an enlarged perspective, what we really need to ponder inside of our heads is the ability for the outcome to have a different effect. You're like, what the fuck, Todd? What are we talking about? Instead, I want you to speak in those specific moments because when you speak in abstractions, like we need better communication even, the culture is the problem, it's a trust issue, the brain really has no idea what you're talking about. So you got to descend the ladder is what we call it and name the specifics. So cite the particular moment. The concrete detail is what is important, not all this abstract decoration. So for instance, we need to have better communication. That's a terrible sentence. What does that mean? Who defines better? Who defines communication? I have no idea what you're talking about. What would be better instead? We need to have a 5-minute download at the end of every day about what happened and then figure out our plan for the next day. Okay, concrete. We can do that. I'd like you to be nicer to me. Okay, what is nice? How do we define nice? Instead, it'd be better if you said, you know what? I love it when you give me compliments. And when you're upset at me, I really love it when you talk in a very calm tone with me and you give me specific feedback, but you don't raise your voice. That makes me feel like you're being nice to me. Do you see how much more useful that is? I think this is also a big flaw, sorry, ladies, in our female communication. A lot of times we'll be like, be nice, I just want you to be kind. And men are like, I don't have the same definition for the word as you. Because we might say, hey, I really want you to express all of your feelings and tell me everything and we could talk about it in detail. And the guy's like, please God, don't do that. That is not kind. So be concrete and do not talk in abstraction. Driver 4, the false finish. This is where you signal the conversation is winding down. You do it through your tone, through the words like, anyway, so basically, the bottom line is, but then you keep talking. So it's like you're closing the conversation, but you don't close the conversation. The listener has already checked out. They heard the landing gear, they're ready for landing, and then you're like, nope, back up again in the air. Do this once, and they start to lose trust in your structural cues really entirely. Every anyway after that triggers early checkout. So you really need to say less, finish cleaner, and when you signal the end. If you're a salesperson, this is really important. I think we were sold a big lie as salespeople with this one sentence. You'll sell more if you keep them talking. That is not true. You will annoy more people if you keep them talking in this generation. So don't do let me just add one more thing. You know what's going to happen? They're never going to pick up your phone call again. The only way you're going to sell them is if you get them in that conversation, and then you're probably going to have a really high refund rate. So just make it the end when it's the end. For the love of all that's holy for all of us, please. Part 3, the mechanics of memorability. So holding attention is one problem. Being remembered, totally different one. And they require different tools, but we're going to give them to you. So by the end of this, you can make people pay attention to you and then you can keep them. There's a study in 1885. This guy by the name of Hermann Ebbinghaus published what became known as the forgetting curve. He basically tested his own memory on nonsense syllables over time and found that within 24 hours, people forget roughly 70% of all new information. With a week, 90%. It's almost all gone. So most of what you say, it just evaporates. And it's not because the listener isn't even listening. It's because the brain is running constant triage. It's figuring out what's worth keeping, because everything you keep costs some type of metabolic energy to store. So the brain is not going to store something unless you give it a reason. And there are now 3 proven mechanisms that interrupt the forgetting curve. The first one is emotional encoding. This is fascinating. So the neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux at NYU has spent decades basically mapping how the amygdala, so that's the brain's emotional processing center, interacts with memory formation. Basically, TLDR, emotional arousal triggers the release of norepinephrine, which essentially flags to the brain, this is important. So the more emotion, the more you're going to trigger a chemical that says, keep this shit. This is why you remember exactly where you were on certain days with unusual clarity, such as if you're old enough, where you were when JFK died. If you're old enough, where you were at 9/11. If you have a scent of your grandma, what her house always smells like. If you had a traumatic event, you might remember weird smells, weird sounds, weird people. And that is why we can remember very odd, spiky events, but you can't remember what you had for lunch yesterday. And this is really emotionally neutral information, doesn't get the flag. It doesn't get stored. So what does this mean for you? If you can use emotional cues in context, it is going to have a much higher shelf life. You don't need to be dramatic, but you do need to give the listener a reason to feel something about what you're telling them. If you can connect the info you want to give them with an emotion that they care about and you slap them together, that's going to make them remember. And so some of the questions you could ask yourself is what changes if they get this right? What goes wrong if they don't? Have you ever noticed in podcasts, it's a new thing I've seen lately, where people will say, can you tell our listener how their life is going to change by listening to this podcast today? What are they trying to do? They're trying to get you right now to have an emotional change, an emotional cue before they give you a bunch of information. They're telling you why to care. And so the response might be well, everything in their life will change. Well, they'll never get divorced. Well, they'll make more money. Well, they'll do what happened to me and they'll become happier, right? Whatever. And so I want you to ask yourself, when you're speaking, how can you not just rattle off dates, names, numbers, but tie an emotion to them? Let's say you want someone to remember something very specific for you, like a birthday. I have a terrible memory. So I have a hard time remembering things like dates. So one of the best things that my husband does about it is every time he wants me to remember something important, like potentially his birthday, he will tie an emotional cue to it. He'll tell me a story about how when he was a little kid, his birthday was so close to Christmas that he was always sad because he only got one present. He always only got a Christmas present, not a birthday. He never had a birthday party because Christmas was so close. And so he was always a little sad that these other kids got the opportunity to have, Christmas parties and birthdays, and he never got both. And he would show me a picture of little Christopher, and that tied to the picture and this image of a little lonely boy and somebody who never got a birthday and a Christmas makes me remember the date, even though typically I'm not going to. By the way, December 16th. And it took me a while because I literally cannot remember numbers for the life of me. So when you want somebody to remember something specific, tie emotion to it. Mechanism 2, the peak end effect. So this psychologist, Daniel Kahneman, who's incredible, he's run some of my favorite experiments. And one of them that he ran was in the 1990s. And it's kind of a funny one. It involves patients undergoing colonoscopies. Not the most glamorous research, I know, but I like also who comes up with this stuff. But the findings changed how we think about memory. He found that the patients remembered the experience of the procedure was determined almost entirely by two moments. The most intense moment, the peak, and the final moment, the end. Just those two. So what does this mean in practice when you're not getting a colonoscopy? People don't remember the totality of the conversation almost ever. They're not going to remember what you said in its entirety. They're going to remember the sharpest moment and the last impression. So if you have a conversation and it's genuinely surprising, insightful, or you have a moving moment and it ends cleanly on a high note, that other person is going to remember it as a great conversation, even if in the middle you kind of bumblefuck your way around and it's kind of mediocre. But the inverse is also true. So a strong conversation, you have like an amazing date. It's an incredible evening, but then it ends badly. That is most likely what you're going to be remembered for. The bad ending, not the 99% of the conversation. So what do? Well, there's two ways to think about it. You can be like, oh my God, now I'm so stressed. I got to just nail some highlight and the end. Instead, I like to think about it like there's only two things you have to care about. One, you got to end deliberately. The last thing you say is disproportionately what gets stored. I think about this in speeches all the time. I always try to end my speeches on the highest note that I possibly can because they're almost going to forget all of it. It's fascinating. I've given maybe thousands of speeches now. Almost always, they quote back to me whatever was on my last slide. And just think about now, if it's you, when you're having a conversation, imagine what the end of the conversation is, like a last slide that you're going to leave them with. Mechanism number 3, the self-reference effect. This one is super underused, but it's not going to be by you because it is almost universally effective. So basically what happens in the 70s, this guy T.B. Rogers found that information is remembered way better when it's processed in relation to the self. So basically when somebody asks, how does this apply to me? And if you do that while hearing information, the other person who's listening is going to remember it at a rate dramatically higher than when they receive the same information neutrally. It's actually fascinating. We see it a lot here with the guests we bring. I'm always trying to get them to like talk to you. I'm like, imagine it is about this one person. A lot of times guests come on podcasts and they're like, blah, 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 all this stuff about me. Here's my history, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't matter to you. You're like, man, what is in it for me? Am I going to get richer, hotter, smarter, happier, make more of an impact listening to you? If not, beat it, right? So I want you to think about the practical application. Don't just make your point. Make it about them. You're not doing this in a manipulative way, but in a relevant way. Connect the information you want to share to their situation, their goals, their specific problem. And there's lots of ways to do this. But let's say you're like, you know what I can't stand? At work when people don't show up on time and then I've got to wait for them and it's so annoying and that happened to me today. Okay, fine. Instead, you could say, isn't it annoying when you go to work and you're waiting on somebody else and they don't show up on time? And doesn't it ever make you feel like they don't respect you and that actually they think their time is more important than yours? Have you ever felt like that? Like, okay, now it's the same story. I'm telling him how I feel in a situation, but it's here's how this shows up for you. That's way more memorable than the general principle. So even if you're going to complain, like I was just doing, it's better if you can reference somebody else. This is called personalized relevance. And it's not a courtesy. It's actually a multiplier. The same principle applies to every medium of communication and none more than newsletters. Most newsletters die for exactly the reason most conversations die. They're not meaningfully connected to their audience. That's the problem Beehive solves. So giving you the tools to actually understand your audience and reach them. Beehive is the platform serious newsletter operators use to actually understand their audience and converse with them memorably. The analytics show you exactly what's landing, which posts people finish, which ones they abandon, where you're losing them. The segmentation tools you personalize at scale so your content hits the self-reference effect every time. Monetization is built in. Subscriptions, the ad network, boosts, so you're not duct taping 6 different tools together just to get paid. And the growth infrastructure compounds. Referral programs, recommendation networks, SEO optimized web posts that keep working after you hit send. If you already have a newsletter but on another platform, don't worry. You can migrate all of your paid subscriptions and content with a few clicks. In fact, that's what I did. Go to beehive.com/Codie and use code Codie30 to save 30% off your first 3 months. That's BEEHIIV.com/Codie. Go build something people remember. Now, the most counterintuitive point in this entire episode, and the one most people miss completely, is the listener's trap. So the biggest barrier to being memorable in a conversation you have isn't how you talk. It's how you listen. And I know this sounds sort of touchy-feely, like everybody believes this, listen, and then people will listen to you, but it's actually true. So most people listen to respond. They track the conversation like just enough to find their opening. Then the moment they can drop the thing they've been waiting to say since 30 seconds ago goes in. The problem is, the science tells us the listener feels this. They feel that energy shift when you stop tracking what they're saying. Eyes change, nodding gets slightly ahead of words, body orients maybe away. So what's the trap here? If you want to be more interesting to talk to, if you want to be described as magnetic or captivating, almost everybody who is that, they're universally the best listeners in the room, not the best talkers. And so the research tells us from Nicholas Epley at the University of Chicago that people drastically overestimate how interesting they are to others and drastically underestimate how much others value being heard. It's the old adage that we've heard from Never Eat Alone, for instance, or How to Make Friends and Influence People, which is if you want people to remember you, let them talk more. The journalists have known this for decades. Before a big interview, good reporters study everything about their subject. And they do this because then when the subject is talking, they can show how much they care about them, but it also gives them the ability to listen. When you know enough background, you stop spending that processing power in your brain reconstructing context in real time. You just hear what's being said. You notice the detail they almost skipped over, the pause before an answer that was faster than everything else, the moment they described as minor, but that actually maybe explains everything. This tool is what therapists call active listening. And journalists call staying in the question, which is a great line. How do you stay in the question as opposed to get distracted elsewhere? It means when someone answers, you actually respond to what they said rather than what you expected them to say. It also is how you follow the thread they laid, not the one you brought in. And it takes some discipline, but you will become more interesting by making yourself more interested in them. And the paradox here is to be remembered as a great conversationalist, you actually just need to talk less. And if there's one thing you should walk away with today, it's this. Attention is actually biological. The brain is constantly processing info in the background. So if you don't give it something to hold on to, a gap to close, a stake to care about, a concrete image to store, it will go somewhere else. The recap, lead with a gap. Bury your deliverability. Stay concrete. End when you signal you're ending. Give information emotional stakes. Engineer one sharp moment per conversation. And that ability to listen genuinely with curiosity, without the answer already loaded, that is going to make people remember you from a decade ago. The kicker to all of this is it's way easier to be charismatic than you think it is. And you don't ever have to be in a situation where people aren't listening to you and you want to be heard. Again, you can learn how to change that. In fact, you just did. You might want to go back and listen to this one more time. I know I'm going to do that again. And send it to somebody who you know has something to say and just needs a little nudge on how to say it better. I'm Codie Sanchez. We'll see you next week.